Something I feel like we've been asking for going all the way back to the F50 Adizero days is for Adidas to give us a top-end indoor or turf variation of their flagship speed boot. And we've had some weird kind of mashup variations that have been overly expensive over the years, but Nike's been giving us pretty much the exact Mercurial Superfly of the time in indoor and turf form. Why can't Adidas do the same? Well, they've finally done so with the Adidas X Ghosted 0.1 Indoor, which I have here in the latest extremely bright and flashy colorway, featuring an upper that is mostly taken directly from the X Ghosted 0.1, at least the parts that count, featuring of course an indoor bottom, but there's also a turf variation as well, all for just $120. And I say only $120, not to suggest that these are cheap, but in comparison to the indoor version of the Superfly, which retails for $175, and of course the FG version of the X Ghosted 0.1, which retails for $225, at $120, these are actually fairly reasonable. But pricing aside, the question remains, are they any good? Because I think a lot of times we as consumers think we want something really bad, but then when we actually get it, it's not as good as we hoped it would be. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case with the X Ghosted 0.1 because there's a lot of things they did right, but there's also some really cheap aspects of this boot as well. I want to go over all the details for you in today's video and basically let you know everything that you should know about these before pulling the trigger, including how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more about them, please stick around, watch the entire review. And if you're interested in a pair for yourself in either the indoor or turf variation, you can click the first link down below or the little pop-up in the corner of the screen. That's going to take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $120 retail price. I promised you guys that there would be more indoor and turf boot reviews on the channel, and I'm trying to keep that promise. So if you guys do end up enjoying this one and want to continue seeing more indoors reviewed on the channel, don't forget to support this one with a like. And if you are new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on weekly content on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. So starting with the upper, it's not exactly the same as what you're going to get on the regular football boot version of the X Ghosted 0.1, mainly in the heel area, which is curiously very similar to the design on the X Ghosted 0.3, which is kind of a strange choice, but I guess that does explain the $120 price point. Get into that in just a second, but the main part of the upper, the part that counts, I would say, is made out of the same fluoro skin as the regular X Ghosted 0.1, despite not having the fluoro skin branding right there for whatever reason. Not sure why that's the case. I'm assuming that because of the way that this upper attaches to the outsole, that the graphic doesn't line up and they didn't want to make a new graphic specifically for the indoor version, so they just opted not to have it there. But you can see it is a thin, technically textile base. You can see it in the form of a grid pattern, but this is an upper that feels like a thin kind of plasticky synthetic, which is really what makes the X Ghosted different from pretty much every other speed boot that's out there right now, which trends towards being a more true textile or a sock-like knitted material. So this is very raw, this is very pingy, and for those that were big fans of the synthetic F50 Adizeros and the Tasian synthetic Mercurial Vapors, this is the closest thing to that you can get right now, and a very good execution of a thin synthetic upper in general. You can see that when I stick my hand inside, it's so thin that it's basically see-through. Because it's the 0.1 variation, it does feature the exact same off-centered lacing system with the one-piece upper construction, where you can see the tongue area is filled in with this slightly elasticated mesh-type material, pretty similar to what we've seen on previous generations of 0.1X models. It does feature this plastic fuse around the edge right here, where basically the boot ends right before your shin / the front of your ankle. And I don't love the way that this has been designed on this or even on the regular football boot. It just makes it a little bit tricky to put on, but once they're on, it's not really that much of an issue. Of course, the lacing system is pushed slightly towards the medial side, which I also don't entirely agree with, but it doesn't really lead to any complications in regards to fit or lockdown. With the laces tied tight, the boots feel nice and secure on feet. Where things get a little bit strange though is the transition point, where you can pretty clearly see right here on a diagonal and right here on the medial side. It transitions not into a similar type of synthetic, but instead into a mesh-based material with an internal plastic heel counter, and of course a standard low cut, a little bit of an extension piece, but the heel liner for the most part, while it's not bad, it's nowhere near as nice as what you're gonna find again on the regular X-Ghosted 0.1. Would have really loved to have seen that incorporated here, but again, I'm going to assume that for whatever reason, that type of heel construction, especially given that this does not have an external heel counter because it's not the same sole plate, probably doesn't work with an internal heel structure. So that's probably why there's such a design variation, but I do feel like the heel area, the way it's constructed and shaped, does feel a little bit cheap considering how premium the rest of the upper is. Nonetheless, it still features this really soft synthetic material at the back. It's a little bit slippery against your sock, and the way that the padding is distributed isn't exactly the cleanest way of doing things. It's kind of a little bit messy in my opinion, but it's comfortable nonetheless, and once you get used to it, it's really not a big deal. But then you get to the insole, which is fully glued in, and again, Adidas likes to do this even on their high-end models. I'm not exactly sure why, so you technically could pull it out, but it wouldn't exactly be easy and it might actually destroy the insole. This one's not bad, but let me grab the other boot. You can see on the right boot that they haven't glued the insole in the correct spot. It's slightly off to one side. Again, you don't notice this when you're actually wearing the boots because it's such a subtle thing, but you would think even for just $120, they could line that up properly if they're gonna glue it in. Moving to the midsole and outsole, where again, this is the indoor variation, but there is also a turf model if you need something for use on turf or even on artificial grass. If you just don't need something super aggressive in terms of traction, you're gonna find that the midsole from the heel kind of flowing into the midfoot, kind of at the base of the forefoot, you can actually see where it ends because of the translucent outsole. You're gonna find their light strike foam, which as the name would suggest, is designed to be very light, but also feels quite nice. I was surprised with the level of cushioning provided by this material. Feels firm, but at the same time absorbs a decent amount of impact and gives you a little bit of kind of energy returned. It doesn't feel mushy or anything like that, or just overly firm where you're not getting any cushion out of it. It's a really nice balance between the two, and honestly, exceeded my expectations, so that was really, really nice. And then through the forefoot, they've left things very, very low profile. You sit very close to the ground, and there's just minimal cushion in general. Something that is also a little bit surprising is the structure here. You can see it's very flexible through the toes and forefoot, where there's really no structure other than just the rubber outsole. But if I try to do the banana bend in half thing that you can do with most indoor boots, there is a solid structure through the midfoot. So similar to a lot of outdoor speed boots that are gonna be stiffer through the heel and midfoot, this one is exactly like that, which is actually a good thing if you're looking for a little bit of familiarity between your FG boots and your indoor boots. I think a lot of people actually like the feel of that. As far as the outsole is concerned, this being the indoor variation, you can see they have kind of a split layout where you have a sole plate in the forefoot and then a little kind of pad at the heel, both made out of the same type of rubber. This one's clear, this one is translucent neon yellow, and the traction pattern is all right. It's a little bit more dense than I would like it to be, which is great for the sake of durability, and honestly, it performed better than I was expecting it to in terms of overall traction. But like so many indoor football boots, if you're using this on an indoor court that is super dusty, you're gonna have to constantly wipe to maintain good traction in general. But what is nice about this is if you do want to use it in the streets, on concrete or on a road or something like that, because it's so dense, the durability should be quite good. And you'll also notice that it does have an extended rubber lip pretty much through the entirety of the forefoot and toe box area, which should be really good for the sake of durability and not allowing the upper to detach itself from the outsole. And then there's the weight, where obviously this is a speed boot and you expect a speed boot to be lightweight, but you also have to take into consideration that it's also an indoor with a significant amount of rubber, which rubber is not a very light material. And I will say I was a little bit surprised by how much these weigh. In a size 10 US, which we'll get into in just a second, you can see that the indoor X-Ghosted 0.1 weighs in at 9.7 ounces, the equivalent of 274 grams, which is a little over 2 ounces more than the FG version of the X-Ghosted 0.1, so a significant weight increase. And if you're comparing this to other indoor speed boots out there, certainly in the top end category, it's not on the lighter end of things, but it's not too far off either. Again, I think you can make a complaint that they should be a little bit lighter considering what they are, but at the same time, The weight I don't think is particularly noticeable, and if you're just looking for something that feels as good as the FG X Ghosted 0.1 does, I don't think you're going to have any issues with the weight of these. Now on feet, these are extremely flashy, especially when paired with some neon yellow pure grip socks. The most affordable grip socks on the market, available in 11 different colors for just $14.99 a pair. If you're interested in some for yourself, the website to visit is puregripsocks.com. There'll be a link down below in the description, so be sure to go ahead and check that out. As far as how the X Ghosted 0.1 indoors feel on feet, they feel a lot like the FG boots. The upper, being that it is the same fluoroskin material, is very raw, it's very thin. It sits very close to your foot as well. The general shape, despite the outsole being completely different, does feel quite similar, so it maintains similar levels of width as well as volume, which is definitely a good thing. It's only when you get to the heel where I think that the way that it's constructed, as well as the shape and the padding they've used, doesn't feel the most premium. It's a little bit wider than I think it should be, and it certainly doesn't fit as well as the regular FG version of the X Ghosted 0.1 does, but it's definitely not terrible. The underfoot cushioning provided by this foam setup that they've gone with, like I said, has a nice combination of firmness, but still a little bit of energy return as well as some cushion to it. Really good balance overall. The boots don't feel overly stiff either, which is also a nice thing to see. And then as far as overall width is concerned, I'm gonna say that these are suitable for most people, although if you have really wide feet, because of the one-piece design, you're gonna have a very hard time getting your foot inside of these boots. So something to keep in mind. If you have really wide feet, I don't think these would necessarily be the best option for you. And then as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in a size 10 US, and my toe goes basically right to the end. The reason why I went up half a size from my normal 9.5 is because of the rubber lip that these have that does go slightly up over the upper. So in a 9.5, while my foot fits inside the boot, it's pressed against that rubber lip, which is very uncomfortable for me. So it really is something that you kind of have to decide. It's a personal preference thing. If you don't want to be directly against that rubber lip, then I would probably recommend going up half a size from the normal X Ghosted 0.1. But if you don't mind that super tight fit and kind of being pressed against the front of the boot, then staying true to size should be all right. Again, that's kind of your call to make. So in conclusion, were we as consumers right in demanding that Adidas make a top-end indoor version of their flagship speed boot? Honestly, I think we were, and I'm also a little bit surprised that Adidas made them as cheap as they are, because I could honestly see this being $150 rather than $120. So kudos to them for giving us exactly what we wanted, sort of, for a lot less money than perhaps we would have expected it for. It's not all perfect though. I think what's a little bit weird about these is that it combines some super premium top of the line elements with some kind of bargain football boot elements all combined into one. I love the fact that they gave us pretty much the exact same upper as the X Ghosted 0.1, which is exactly what I think most of us would hope for. And I think that the tooling for the midsole and outsole is really good overall. No complaints from me there. What they did in the heel, as far as materials used, as well as the shaping and construction, is definitely cheaper than I think it should be. It doesn't necessarily match what's going on with the rest of the upper. And then the glued-in insoles on a top-end indoor boot, it's not a big deal, certainly not a deal breaker, but it's just one of those things where I still don't get why they're doing this on a product like that. All in all though, if you're looking for a premium barefoot feel from a synthetic upper on a pair of indoor or turf boots, this is the one you should buy. For 120 bucks, there is not a better option right now. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, either the indoor or turf variations, there will be links to the review pages down below in the description of this video, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick them up below their normal retail price. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.